Our weather lab experiment.
Look how excited they were.
Yes.
There's one point where all the kids are scared of Dawn.
We usually choose a couple of kids to help us with the experiment, and we chose Gavin Madden and Gillian. Oh, I'll say her name later. I'm blanking on Gillian's last name because we were just calling him Gillian Javit. But anyway,
Gilligan. Yeah, we had Gilligan and the skipper.
No, we had Gillian and Gavin.
Let's talk about this thing, Dawn.
Fourth graders at Lakewood Elementary. But we were demonstrating a property, and we'll show you that a little bit later on. But Chris and I have been wanting to demonstrate whether river water or fresh water would float on ocean water or salt water.
Yeah, in the experiment with the kids, we talk about the density differences of warm and cold water. Cold water is more dense, and we'll show you all that in the experiment. But this is fresh water and salt water.
And so yesterday, I just kind of had a hankering, and I said, Chris, come on, let's put a little salt in a... And
I asked you not to, but you did it anyway.
Let's put a salt in a jar and then do fresh water. And this is, again, the yellow is the fresh water and the green is the salt water. And I mixed that salt water, got it really diluted to the point, and they're the same temperature. And look at this, for 24 hours now, the fresh water has just been standing on top. Now, I want to flip it and see what happens?
You can.
All right,
you're going to spill it all over the place?
Let's see what happens when I flip it. Look at that.
It mixes.
It mixes. So the salt water is floating to the bottom. It's denser than the fresh water. So obviously the Mississippi River or rivers float
on top of the Gulf water.
On top of the Gulf water.
All right, well, that's it for Fox 8's Morning. What color is a warm front? Yep, that's right.
Oh, good job. You can come on up.
Chris and Dawn take the Wednesday Weather Lab on the road to Luling, where the students help them prove warm water floats and cold air sinks. Fox 8 News at 6 starts now.
Live. You're watching Fox 8 News.
Welcome back to Wednesday's Weather Lab. We're at a school again.
Yes, they allowed us back.
At Lakewood Elementary in Luling, as long as we didn't blow anything up.
Right. They were okay with us not setting fires.
Yes, exactly. All right, and we have two volunteers once again. We have Gillian and Gavin. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. And we're doing an experiment dealing with pressure, air pressure, and also density. We're going to be explaining two things today.
Yes, I like this. The 2-in-1 Weather Lab combo.
And I've got a tub. This is basically, of course, in case we spill.
In case we spill or when we spill?
No, I'm not going to spill. And then we have a baby jar filled with hot water. We have another baby jar filled with cold water. And what we're going to do is we are going to prove that cold water is denser than warm water because the molecules are packed together a little bit more closely with cold water, and that warm water will float. I always do that.
Yeah, I'm over it.
On top, will float on top of cold water. So, Gillian, I need you to put a couple of drops of food coloring in the hot water to show red it's hot. Will you do that for me? Thank you. Oh, and while she's doing that, Gavin, will you put the blue in the cold water? Okay. Okay. And while they do that, Chris, maybe you could kind of explain how this has to do with weather.
The hot and cold water, just like in the air, hot air rises, cold air sinks. That's why if you get up early in the morning and it's cold outside, your feet get really cold when you're kind of walking around. That's because all the cold air is sinking down to the bottom and all the warm air is rising up to the top. Now, we're going to show with these two jars that we can actually put those together and keep the water from mixing because we're going to put the warmer water on top of the colder water.
Are you guys watching? Woo!
Okay, now this is a different property. We're going to talk about the warm and cold, but what we're doing here is there's air pressure all around us. And when we filled this jar with water, we took out all of the air. So now it's just water, there's no air. Well, the air pressure is strong enough to push on that index card and hold the water in. So this is kind of a little side experiment to our main experiment that the air pressure is actually keeping that card up. And something you can try at home.
And now what we're doing is we're going to put these two together. And obviously right now, what is separating the hot water from the cold water? Gavin, Gillian? What's separating the two?
The index card.
The index card, exactly. Good job. Go ahead and take out the card. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
That's okay, go ahead. So what happened? Oh, thanks, I got a clap.
Yeah, because I'm not going to. You can throw that in there, buddy.
So what? So basically,
Getting a mess out of
Jillian,
him.
did the colors stay separate? So what is that telling you?
Hot water floats.
Yeah, it's telling us that hot water is floating on top of the cold water. Now what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over and we're going to put the cold water, oops, we're going to flip the cold water on top of the hot water. Can everybody see that they're separate?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what happens when I flip them over. Now,
Other than making an enormous mess.
yeah, now I'm making a mess. Hot water, though, will float on the cold, but what happens when you put the cold water on top of the hot?
It will mix.
It mixes.
Right.
Good job, exactly. So what is that telling us about density? Chris, we'll have you answer this one.
Oh, good. Well, that means that the cold water is more dense, means it's heavier. So the colder water sinks to the bottom, the warmer water wants to rise to the top. So when we put the jars like that, they don't change. The warmer water stays on top of the cold water. Well, when we turn it over, we've now put the heavier cold water on top, and it wants to go down to the bottom. The warmer, less dense water wants to go to the top, and so they mix, and then you get purple.
And that's kind of like air as well. That's how we have weather, as warm air rises and cold air sinks, and you get that whole process of the air mixing.
And that's how you get weather. And then we have a job.
Well, thank you so much to Jillian and Gavin and all the kids here at Lakewood Elementary for another edition of Wednesday's Weather Lab.
Mrs. Coley, on behalf of Raising Cane's, thank you for the opportunity to support your school's science program. We are always very excited to support the local schools in our community.
Thank you from Lakewood Elementary.